Warning: the following video is intended for a mature audience and contains scenes of a graphic nature. Viewer discretion is advised. The trend of remaking or remastering beloved video games has become commonplace within today's industry. Many studios have chosen on taking the original experience and improving it with graphical updates and quality of life improvements. But one studio that I want to highlight has instead chosen to craft new experiences to appeal to hardcore fans and new players alike: Capcom. Ever since 2019's Resident Evil 2, Capcom has been pushing towards taking a revered entry and improving it in a way that doesn't take away from the original. For example, the original RA2 for PS1 and the 2019 remake are two completely separate experiences, while still having the same overarching plot and characters. For the most part, these remakes have been reviewed fairly well, so when Capcom announced a remake of Resident Evil 4, some were initially skeptical. Fans argued that a remake wasn't necessary, and that the original still held up well. The remake would have some heavy shoes to fill, being forced to live up to the highs that the original set 18 years prior, and it surpassed every expectation with flying colours. The 2023 remake takes the foundation that the GameCube classic laid out and improves upon it in every way imaginable, making the combat even faster, refining the level design and pacing, while still managing to retain the charm and campiness that made the original game so endearing.
Hasta luego.
RE4 has once again managed to champion the third-person shooter genre, being one of the best games to come out within recent years. This is how Resident Evil 4 reclaimed its throne.
Where's everyone going? Bingo?
Taking place 6 years after the viral outbreak that occurred in Raccoon City, RE4 follows ex-officer Leon S. Kennedy. Now working as a government agent, Leon is assigned on a mission to investigate and locate the whereabouts of Ashley Graham, the president's daughter. His investigation leads him to a remote village located in a rural part of Spain, where the villagers, also known as ganados, don't seem to be very hospitable. After finding the remains of both of his escorts, Leon eventually stumbles upon a man tied up in a basement. Before he can free the man though, the village's chief arrives to give Leon a very warm welcome. Waking up in a factory basement, Leon and the man wake up to find they've been changed up together. Trying to make small talk, the man reveals his name to be Luis and asks if Leon is looking for someone. Before he's able to get answers, a ganado interrupts their chat. Dispatching the ganado, Luis runs off before Leon is able to finish questioning and gets back to searching for Ashley. Running into the village's chief Mendez again, Mendez makes an odd comment about Leon, saying his blood has accepted the gift. No time to waste, Leon eventually locates Ashley in the church and is able to escort her through the village. Reuniting with Luis in a cabin, Ashley takes shelter while Leon and Luis fend off wave after wave of invading ganados. After escaping, Luis recognizes that Leon and Ashley have both been infected with the same parasite that controls the ganados, known as Las Plagas. Promising to help cure the two, Luis sets off while Leon must manage both his own parasite and protecting Ashley from the threats that await them ahead. It's hard to fully go into detail about the story without delving into spoilers, but I love the story in both versions of RE4, despite how different their tones are. There's a line from near the end of the original that goes, "The American prevailing is a cliche that only happens in your Hollywood movies," and that's exactly it. The plot for RE4 is much like a Hollywood movie, with the American hero rescuing the damsel and stopping the bad guys. But the differences in how it's presented is what makes both versions stand out. The original is much like a campy B-movie action horror flick, with a large portion of the cast often putting out comedic quips and memorable one-liners.
No thanks, bro.
The remake, on the other hand, is similar to an action movie past the mid-2010s. taking on a serious tone with how it presents the story and characters. The leading man himself, Leon, is far more reserved and serious than his 2005 counterpart. Both versions have gone through the nightmare that was the Raccoon City incident, yet they both handle it in different ways. OG Leon is far more sarcastic, often making jokes or wisecracks to lighten up his predicament.
I'm sure you boys didn't just tag along so we could sing Kumbaya together at some Boy Scout bonfire. Then again, maybe you did.
Remake Leon, however, is more reserved in his ways, but he still enjoys making an occasional zinger here and there.
You talk too much.
Failed! You vulgar, utterly uncivilized mongrel!
I can't say which iteration of Leon I prefer, as they both suit the tone of their circumstances, and how they choose to handle and overcome their trauma and grief from the Raccoon City incident is what makes both renditions of Leon great protagonists. Ashley's character differs greatly between the original and the remake, once again to better match the tone Capcom went for. OG Ashley is the textbook definition of a damsel in distress, often being more of an annoyance than a helpful companion, and her character doesn't change much at all. In stark contrast, remake Ashley is executed much better. She still starts out as the scared damsel in distress, unwilling to trust Leon at the beginning, but as the story progresses, she grows to push past her fears and do her best to help Leon however she can.
I won't run. Wait for me, Leon.
Ashley turns from a liability to a reliable ally, changing the dynamic of her relationship with Leon to be one of mutual trust and support. Luis probably had the biggest glow up from the original, as he was given much more importance to the overall plot and more time on screen. When first meeting Leon, Luis is very shifty as he's unsure if he can fully trust Leon, so he instead chooses to be vague with his questions and motivations. Upon realizing that both Leon and Ashley are infected with the Plugger, he does his best to assist the pair to try and atone for his wrongdoings. Of course, both versions of Luis follow the same path, but due to having more presence on screen, Luis becomes a more endearing character than his original counterpart and is all the better for it.
Why are you helping us?
Because it makes me feel better. Let's leave it at that.
Ada, on the other hand, has been a pain point for many fans. Ada is the textbook definition of a femme fatale, blurring the lines on where she stands to make sure she completes her objectives, and both versions accomplish this very well, but they differ in how they speak. OG Ada is very seductive, usually toying with Leon's emotions to get her way. Remake Ada, on the other hand, is more serious about her work and isn't anywhere near as playful as her original counterpart. But the main criticism this iteration gets is the voice actress herself. Lily Gao took over the role after she played Ada in Welcome to Raccoon City, and from what I was able to find, it was her first time doing professional voiceover work. A large amount of her lines come across as very dull and monotone, and her voice did grow on me, but not until after I played through Separate Ways, which we'll be touching on later. I don't think Lily Gao did a bad job voicing Ada, and she definitely didn't deserve the harassment she received, but whoever was directing her voice should have done some retakes for the main campaign.
Don't think too hard, handsome. See you later.
It might seem a bit odd to mention the Merchant, as he doesn't have any story relevance, but one can't simply talk about RE4 without bringing up this beloved arms dealer. The Merchant is a mysterious character, setting up his shop all around the map to provide Leon with equipment, firearms, and upgrades. Very little is known about the Merchant, besides the fact that he's happy to offer his services to any paying customer, but it's his inviting yet mysterious nature that makes him so interesting. He's chock full of funny and quotable lines about the weapons he's got on hand, the value of an item that can be sold to him, and probably the most well-known one, what he says when a purchase is made.
Thank you.
The Merchant has been a fan favourite character for years, and Capcom treated him with the utmost of respect in the remake, to which I must applaud.
I see you have an eye for things. Gun's not just about shooting, it's about reloading. You'll know what I'm talking about.
The villains were one of the biggest positives in the original, and the same holds true for the remake. The big cheese himself, Mendez, is still the big man in the village, choosing to get the job done with his bare hands, and often resorting to his brute strength to carry out his so-called God's will. His stature alone is enough to make an encounter tense, and his unwillingness to give up is what makes him such a threatening adversary. Salazar's performance differs from the original due to the change in tone, and I must say that I love how it seems he's always 1 to 2 steps ahead of the heroes. It always feels like he's the one holding all the cards, even up until the very end. Although, I do miss OG Salazar throwing a fit whenever something doesn't go his way.
I've sent my right hand to dispose of you.
Your right hand comes off?
Say whatever you please. Die, you worm!
As the head of the Los Illuminados, Sadler's involvement with the story has changed substantially from the original, as he largely appears in hallucinations instead of in person at set locations. Personally, I prefer this much more, as it demonstrates how strong his control over the Plaga is, and being able to communicate telepathically with his followers makes much more sense thematically. Just like the other characters, Sadler matches the tone of the remake much better, as he's much more of a manipulative cult leader, forcing his followers to follow his every word and preaching about his mind-controlling parasites.
Go now. Deliver to these vagrant children their salvation.
While each version of RE4 has their differences in tone, both are entertaining for different reasons. The original has the campy quality to it that has given some very comedic and memorable lines from nearly every character, but it also made the original story all the better. The remake, on the other hand, plays it straight and serious for a large majority of the game, but also knows when to have little moments of charm in the downtime. As stated in the beginning, the original was pivotal in popularizing the over-the-shoulder camera angle. This camera positioning has the player's character taking up a portion of the screen, typically on the left side. For actions such as aiming a firearm or a knife, the screen will zoom in over the character's shoulder for better accuracy. Every gun, barring rifles, would have a red dot to show where the bullet would hit. While having an accurate shot is great, aiming down sights took away the ability to move. This made making sure shots connected even more important, as a missed shot is one step closer to Leon's demise. Making sure Leon's positioning is correct is pivotal in avoiding death. But because this is a Resident Evil game for RE6, the original uses tank controls. If a player is not already used to tank controls, this can make movement in the game feel clunky, and fighting the controls and the Ganados at the same time can be frustrating. Luckily, the original was created with these controls in mind, and it's fine as long as the player can handle it. With the remake, the controls have shifted over to more conventional control schemes. Leon's movement has opened up exponentially with the new control method, as he's no longer bound by tank controls and now has access to moving while aiming weapons. In exchange though, enemies are far more aggressive than they are in the original, and they force Leon to make split-second decisions. To accommodate for the faster flow of action, Leon has access to new tools at his disposal. Leon is able to assign firearms and throwable items to the D-pad, eliminating the need to go into the attaché case to switch in the middle of a fight. The trusty knife returns with a couple of key changes for offensive and defensive measures. Whenever an enemy is about to swing at Leon, he can deflect or parry the attack. When their guard is down, Leon can hit them back with a melee attack or go for a knife takedown. Melees work much the same as they did in the original, allowing Leon to deal a good chunk of damage to multiple enemies at no extra cost. In the remake though, the melee that Leon gets off depends entirely on the enemy's positioning. If they're staggered onto their knees, they're gonna eat a big front kick to the face. If they've got their back turned, they're taking the biggest suplex of their lives. If an enemy is particularly tanky and can shrug off a melee, a knife takedown is a great way to inflict big damage. Knife takedowns are very versatile, as they can be done in active combat and stealth, guaranteeing kills on basic enemies. The main drawback with knives now is that they have durability. All these methods of using the knives eat up a chunk of durability upon use, and deciding when to use them in combat plays into the split-second decision making that RE4 is amazing at. If the moment calls for it, stealth has many practical applications over going in guns blazing. Leon is able to crouch in the remake, allowing him to move around with little detection. Pairing it with knives as well as new weapons such as the bolt thrower, Leon could even the odds without an enemy noticing his presence, and create opportunities that give him a significant advantage.
Sorry, didn't realize that was yours. I am flattered.
If Leon has knives that are close to breaking, he can choose to instead use them as crafting materials for his firearms. Crafting ammunition for various weapon types is now possible, as long as he has the materials available, usually some mix of gunpowder and resources. But it isn't only limited to ammo. Leon is also able to craft other objects such as the reliable flash grenades. Having crafting be available at all times is great, as Leon doesn't have to rely on drops in the overworld from looted bodies or broken boxes. If he needs a particular ammo or grenade type, he can make it on the spot, and if he's in a sticky spot, a flash grenade can quite literally be a lifesaver. Usually when enemies are defeated, they'll drop pesetas. These can be exchanged for goods and services with everyone's favourite shady character, the merchant. At his storefront, he is able to offer a wide range of weaponry, repairs, and attachments, all in exchange for the right currency. Every weapon that can be stored away is eligible for being upgraded to have better stats and later on, exclusive perks, such as an increased critical hit rate or faster swing speed. The wide range of weapons that he has on offer encourages doing multiple runs to experiment and figure out which weapons fit a player's personal preference. The merchant has a second shop screen where he can exchange goods for spinels, which can be gathered by completing his requests that are scattered all throughout the world. Completing these can give way to attachments such as the laser sight for pistols, replacing the crosshairs with a laser sight reminiscent of the original. Every run of the remake has the opportunity to be different in their own little ways, and the merchant can help contribute to making every run feel a little bit more unique.
Honestly, this might be the only gun you need.
However, I should bring up something that was added in an update: the microtransactions. Upgrade tickets can be purchased for real money to get an exclusive for a weapon. Honestly, these aren't intrusive or necessary to play the game, and the only people I can see buying one of these are players who are that bad at the game. Don't spend money on these tickets. Get good. Ashley's mechanics were overhauled drastically compared to the original game. Ashley's controls in the original were as simple as wait and follow, with Ashley either stopping in place or staying right behind Leon. This wasn't too intrusive in the original, as it could be as simple as putting Ashley in a safe spot and clearing out waves of enemies before letting her out. In the remake though, Ashley follows the far and close system. She'll always stick behind Leon to some extent, the only difference is the distance between the two. No longer can Leon just put Ashley somewhere safe, he has to ensure her safety as they make their way through hordes of Ganados. This adds more tension on top of the base systems of the game, and creates for difficult moments between worrying about Ashley's safety and what's coming for Leon's head.
Damn. Ashley!
Fortunately, Ashley's AI is fairly smart for the most part and isn't usually a problem. One portion of the original that got removed for the most part were the QuickTime events. At key points in the game, there were sections that required the player to button mash aggressively to avoid death, such as being chased by a giant boulder or a robotic Salazar. In the remake, those parts still exist in some way, just changed to better fit set pieces or no longer requiring furious button mashing. Up until this point, I've been referring to the player character as Leon, but thanks to downloadable content, there's extra modes of play besides the main campaign featuring different playable characters. Originally in addition to the PlayStation 2 version of the 2005 classic, Separate Ways returns as Ada's solo campaign, with her own unique levels, weapons, and boss fights. This campaign coincides with Leon's as she follows her own personal goals to gather information on the Los Illuminados, facing her own challenges ahead. Separate Ways features many levels and set pieces that were left out of Leon's campaign that better fit Ada, such as the gondola encounter and the sewers that are swarmed with Novistadors. It cleverly takes full advantage of the spy's unique skills that make her fit well into the larger scope of the story. Separate Ways is a great addition to the terrific main campaign and is worth the base asking price. But if some players are looking for something they can play in shorter bursts, the Mercenaries mode is perfect. Mercenaries has been a standard inclusion to most Resident Evil games since RE3. with the main objective being to get as high a score as possible. This can be done by keeping up a long kill streak and having a large amount of time at the end. Time can be racked up by destroying fragments scattered around the map, or defeating enemies with headshots, melees, or knife takedowns. Going for the highest score possible is where the fun is for mercenaries, as it takes the fast-paced combat of the base game and ups the ante by throwing in special bosses and multiple playable characters. As opposed to the original, Mercenaries in the remake boasts 8 playable characters compared to the original's 5, as well as a brand new mechanic, Mayhem Mode. Mayhem Mode can be activated when the bar at the bottom is filled to the max, and gives way to some very powerful techniques. Leon is the standard jack of all trades, being well equipped with his handgun, shotgun, and sniper rifle to pair with his Mayhem Mode that boosts his firearm power, rate of fire, and reload. Luis is slow but powerful, sporting the Red 9 and bolt action rifle to pair with his Mayhem Mode that sets dynamite at his feet to create big wave clearing opportunities. Hunk is all about his TMP, and can activate Mayhem Mode to temporarily get unlimited ammo to use his deadly melee attacks, such as the hidden elbow blade and the all-powerful neck snap. I can go on for longer about each character's unique traits and skills, but the point is that Mercenaries encapsulates everything great about the combat of Resident Evil 4 and makes it better with the diverse characters on offer and the thrill of reaching that high score.
And that's the game.
The world of Resident Evil 4 is mysterious and terrifying, as it conceals its dangerous threats behind the gothic architecture and dimly lit pathways. The world is broken up into 3 key areas: the village, the castle, and the island. The village is a rural living space for the Ganados, being once humble farmers that cultivated the land. Famine had struck the villagers hard, and their situation only got worse when the Los Illuminados got involved. The castle was originally home to the Salazar family, with many eye-catching pieces of 18th century architecture all throughout. Beneath the surface, the castle houses many dark secrets and creatures lurking in the shadows. The island serves as the militaristic base of operations for the Los Illuminados, where they keep their strongest soldiers and weapons. Using the laboratory situated there, the Los Illuminados conducted experiments to create deadly bioweapons. With every part of the game being remade from scratch, certain portions of the map were redesigned for better pacing and cohesion. To give an example, Leon makes his way to Luis's destination in the first chapter of both games. They both start off very similarly, with Leon going through the starting lodge, then to the village encounter, passing through the farm, and finally getting to the house where Luis is being held. In the remake, these areas are better connected within the world. Past the farm is the villa, which doesn't get used until later near the end of the village section. Connected to that is the pathway to Luis's whereabouts, but in the remake it's been changed to a lakeside lodge that can be revisited later once Leon gets access to the boat. The changes that were made to make the standout locations linked together makes the world feel better connected and much more memorable. The atmosphere of each area also contributes to the memorability of the world, with both versions of RE4 being standout examples of how to do atmosphere well. A strength that the original has is its colour palette, with a focus on muted and dark colours to give off an air of uneasiness. The browns, yellows and greys work well with the different architecture present all throughout the game, making every area look and feel as though they haven't properly been taken care of. The world itself feels sick, and the focus on these colours add to the feelings of dreariness and hostility. The fog and rain effects helped add to the tension as well, making it hard to see what's up ahead. After all, there's nothing quite as scary as the fear of the unknown. The remake, on the other hand, has a darker colour palette with more contrasting colours. Reds, greens and blues are able to stand out far more than in the original, making it easier to discern objects apart from the environment. The core strengths in the remake's atmosphere comes from its use of lighting, music, and sound effects. Running on the RE engine, the remake is able to put the power of the engine to great use by making weather and mist effects look amazing. The use of bright light sources against dark hallways or the stormy night is visually stunning, and the flashes of lightning giving a glimpse of what awaits ahead is amazing for creating tension. The music is instrumental for creating the right ambience, and the remake clears the original in this department. The original soundtrack was very focused on noise-type sounds, and mostly gave way for the enemies to be making up most of the volume in encounters. It doesn't have many standout tracks for the most part because of this, aside from a few character and boss themes. It will also abruptly stop the music whenever all enemies in the vicinity have been eliminated. The remake fixes both of these, with an amazing soundtrack and knowing when to keep the music on for the sake of the tone. Themes for basic encounters still have that focus on noises to create tension, but have more dramatic direction than the tracks from the original. This is most prevalent in boss fights, with all the bosses having amazing themes this time around. Let's take Mendez's fight for example. The original is focused on the horror and tension of what Mendez has revealed himself to be. The remake, however, is far more dramatic, and is further amplified by Mendez asking for the assistance from his god. The sound effects were also given very special attention, making sure that every shot fired feels satisfying, and every chainsaw rev fills the player with dread.
Kidding me.
There was a large amount of care taken to environmental noises, making sure they're as realistic as possible. The waving of foliage, the sound of the wind and the rain coming down all sound amazing, yet don't interfere with the sounds of combat. The blast of a shotgun or the cracking of a neck will always be very prominent, and have this crunchy sound to them that I just can't get enough of. But the one sound that most players will end up hearing are the yells of enemies that have spotted Leon. The Ganados take up most of the basic enemy types in the game, with the main differences being in their outfits and choices of weaponry. But the one thing that will always persist are their sickly, bloodshot eyes and the chance of a plaga bursting out. The different types of parasites that will pop out vary in their grotesqueness, but every kind has some sort of deadly ability to them. Some will brandish scythes, some will grow an extra large set of teeth, and some will assume all control over another Ganado. The designs of the enemies play back into the feeling of the world being sick, with basic enemies having pale or yellowish skin. When a plaga comes out, it only exposes the true sickness hiding within everyone and everything in the world. But the truly sick, those are saved for special moments. Each segment of the game has their own super enemies, which are much bulkier and require heavy firepower to take down. In the village, there's the Chainsaw Men and Women, or as I like to call them, Dr. Salvador and the Bella Sisters. They all have their faces covered in burlap sacks or bandages with one thing on their mind: violence. These chainsaw-wielding maniacs take a tremendous amount of ammo to be put down, and any hit from them is an instant kill. Best pray there's a knife on hand to counter their relentless and deadly swings. The castle hosts the Garradors, parasitic hosts that were granted extreme physical strength with the caveat that they would attack anything in sight. To keep them under control, their eyes were sewn shut. Despite the loss of vision, they maintained their acute hearing, and any loud sound will set them off. Avoid making too much noise, otherwise Leon will be eating claws for dinner. Finally, and probably the most dangerous, the Regenerators. Bioweapons created by experimenting on the Plaga, these creatures were created by planting multiple Plaga inside of human bodies. Due to the large number of Plaga, it caused rapid mutation within the body, and made it so that they can regenerate parts of the body that were destroyed. Killing one is a hard task without the right equipment, as they will be persistent in their hunt, going as far to slither along the ground like a snake. Frankly, The horrifying thing about them is their breathing. Hearing them breathe from around a corner without having the right item to destroy their parasites means the path has to be carefully planned out. And if their parasites are destroyed, well, hope that they don't grow spikes. The main note about all these super enemies is how important sound is to them. The Dr. Salvadors and Bella sisters, the sounds of their chainsaws, because one hit means instant death. The Garradors, they're loaded by sounds, and a missed gunshot means having another dance with the claws. The Regenerators, their breathing means a near indestructible enemy is lurking in the shadows, waiting for its next target. So much care and attention has been put into making sure the sound design for every enemy is impactful and unnerving. The sound design for both versions of Resident Evil 4 is fantastic, and helps build tension and atmosphere to make close encounters with death as frightening as it needs to be. Resident Evil 4 is truly a fantastic experience. So much love, care, and attention to detail has gone into both of these games that each is worth playing in their own right. The original grounded itself as a pillar of the third-person shooter genre back in the mid-2000s, with the strong emphasis on action, the cheesy B-movie plot, and the multitude of game modes to keep players hooked. If you, the viewer, can get past the tank controls and live with the button-mashing QTEs, then please, by all means, give the original a shot.
Sounds like a great idea. Mission accomplished. Right, Leon?
Not quite.
If you're wanting a modernized experience with more content, a plot that is more serious in tone, and some of the best feeling combat in any AAA game, the remake is the best version to play. To me, the remake capitalizes on everything that made the original amazing and elevates it to today's standards. The level design and pacing is stronger, the combat's pacing is faster and filled with on-the-fly decision making, and the soundtrack is absolutely killer. This is one of the best games to come out in recent memory, and it deserves all the praise that it has garnered. It's for these reasons that I believe that Resident Evil 4 has reclaimed its throne. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed and want to see more content like this, leaving a like, comment, and subscription is a great way of showing support. As always, these videos are not possible without some help. Thank you to Saving Termina and Disilent for helping me with gathering footage for some of the games featured in the video, as well as proofreading the script. Thank you to Carterian for helping me during the script writing, offering suggestions to help make the script overall better. Thank you to Snaky Boy on Tumblr for creating the RE4R font that I've been using throughout the video. I'll leave a link to the page where I got the font, so please show them some support. A special shout out here to my brother, who kept telling me to get back on this project and see it through. He's got a clothing line known as Fitness by Design, and he makes all the designs and patterns himself. I've got a few of his t-shirts, and I couldn't be happier about them, so please, show him some love, and order some of his shirts. And apologies for the long gap between uploads, life has been hectic since the Wind Waker video. I've moved a few times, landed a job, and even had the opportunity to compete offline more and have some pretty good placements. I've got some ideas in mind that I want to work on, but I won't tease you all when that'll be. It'll be out when it's out. With all that out of the way, if you wish to keep up with me and everything that I do, you can follow me on my socials with the handle on screen. Until next time, take care.